Don't miss emerita pianist extraordinaire Isabelle Tseng when she performs a piano recital featuring 11 works chosen in E4TT's latest call for scores. She'll play not one, but two performances online and on both sides of the Bay, in Berkeley on February 22nd and in San Francisco on March 2nd. Welcome to For Good Measure, an interview series celebrating diverse composers and other creative artists, sponsored by a grant from the California Arts Council. I'm Nanette McGuinness, Artistic Executive Director of Ensemble for these times. In this week's Lunar Module episode, we continue talking to E4TT Lunar Composition Lab Call for Scores winner, Isabelle Tseng, who we spoke to in May 2024. So before you work with Veronica, were you kind of leaning in that story-based imagery direction, or was that brand new to you?
I think it was always a little bit like that, but not quite. So it wasn't as picturesque. It was more like an emotion thing.
Yeah.
I once wrote this piece called Gardeloo, which is a word that people used to yell when they threw trash out the window. And then I think that piece was a little bit kind of about like a feeling of disgust, and it was like a very like emotions-based feeling. But again, everybody's disgust feels different, and everybody's kind of like horror feels different, because the second movement of my piece called Gardeloo is called Defenestration, and it's a pedestrian who's walking down the street, hears Gardeloo, knows that trash is about to come down right on top of him, and he has no idea where it is, right? So at the end of the day, I think like it was a little bit more emotions based, and in a way, I think I'm able to paint the picture of my own emotions well, because it's kind of what I feel, and to each their own, right? But I feel like in terms of pictures, I didn't have a very strong sense of, okay, I'm like writing a joyful piece about somebody's childhood, let's put in a bouncing teddy bear, right? Like I feel like in some ways that didn't really come across in my music, and I feel like after working with Veronica, I have a lot more solid in an idea of what exactly like consists of a thing in its sound.
Right. So yeah, I would say the mood is what I was getting, and that you learned specificity. And to hone that specificity. That's very cool. Now, you're a rising sophomore, you're 19, but do you have any idea where you're going next, what you want to do?
I'm not entirely sure, but at the current moment, I definitely want to keep composing. I think like it's definitely something that I really love like filling my free time with, because like school's really stressful. And then I come home and I get to like kind of play around with different mediums, and I feel like it's a really like awesome experience to kind of see like one like I feel like music is a really raw form of communication. And like through, for example, I feel like you can have a chamber music group of like 4 people speaking of completely 4 different languages, and then everybody kind of has like the universal idea of, okay, like this is what we want to do. And if there like, even if there's like there's even like a musical discussion going on, and I feel like in a way that's a dialogue that I want to be a part of. At the current moment at school, though, I think I'm currently pre-law.
That's okay. So you're doing econ, but you're pre-law and you love composing. Why not? I think smart people have more arrows to their bow that they want to explore, to mix metaphors really disastrously.
Yeah, I think it's just really fun talking to people, and pre-law really like has a lot of opportunities for that, and kind of getting to know everybody's stories and talking to everybody and going like, oh, you have a like, it seems like we're all people, we all like end up in like similar places, but everybody comes from like a completely different background. As similar as they may seem, they're always different. So I think it's always really fun to talk to everybody.
Right, the commonalities, but the devil is in the details, right?
Yeah.
Are there other aspects of music that interest you with all the other things that you're doing?
I play in the orchestra, but I also compose. But I recently feel like genre wise, I have found a lot of like inspiration. Because I recently took this class called The Tonality of Music with Dmitry Timosko at Princeton. And it's like a class that walks through like music theory in a bit of a different lens. I wouldn't yeah, I think it's like a different approach to a different approach to kind of viewing music, analyzing music. And we went through a lot of different genres, even like jazz, and like rock even. And I think personally, as a person who was classically trained as a kid, at first, I feel like my ear was like untrained in this angle. I could not like analyze it properly. But like taking a closer look at a lot of this type of music, that's a bit more, I think, improvisational, I think was important in kind of like showing me that like there are a lot more facets to kind of composition, not just like sitting down and like writing. And I thought that like the improvisational idea and kind of manipulating like shapes in the most like present form, like right in front of an audience, is something that I really think is really inspirational in a way and freeing in another way. Like while it looks like kind of like regulated on paper, it's like very free. Like I of course like heard a lot of Debussy, and then I was like, wow, this is kind of like how it was created in a way, and I found it really cool. So I think recently, musically speaking, I kind of unlocked the door to a little bit more of like the flowy vibe of music, and I think that's something I'll definitely explore.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, that you were trained in what we think of as the classical, which is it's on the paper, we write it on the paper, and we do our best to do exactly what's on the paper. But that's more a modern, in my opinion, construct of what classical music is, because if you look at the Baroque, there was all sorts of improvisation going on all around in ornamentation and a number of directions. But even if you look at the concerti with and the cadenzas in the classical period and so forth, there was all sorts of stuff going on for people to do that wasn't written on the paper. So it's good that you got that freeing experience, because there is space for that in classical music. So yeah, but okay, so it blew your mind and opened your horizons.
Yeah,
very cool. And that's good. That's what a teacher's supposed to do in a good way. So that's nice. Thank you for listening to For Good Measure. And a special thank you to our guest, Isabelle Tseng, for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast by clicking on the subscribe button, and support us by sharing it with your friends, posting about it on social media, and leaving us a rating and a review. To learn more about E4TT, our concert season online and in the Bay Area, or to make a tax-deductible donation, please visit us at e4tt.org. This podcast is made possible in part by a grant from the California Arts Council and generous donors like you. For Good Measure is produced by Nanette McGuinness and Ensemble for These Times, and designed by Brennan Stokes, with special thanks to co-producer and audio engineer Stephanie M. Neumann. Remember to keep supporting equity in the arts, and tune in next week for Good Measure.